Welcome to the video, guys. It's a happy one and a sad one today for me because I'm announcing that I'm going to be selling two of my project cars, and this is one of them. If you aren't familiar, this is my 1992 Honda Civic SiRS that was imported from Japan. It's a very rare car, one of 3,000 ever made. It was only available in Japan, so having it here in the States is pretty cool. And it's a car that I restored from the ground up long before throtl was ever even thought of. And you're probably wondering, why are you getting rid of this perfect EG6 Mickey? And the reason is simple. I actually got one of my dream cars. And don't worry guys, I'm gonna show you that car before the end of this video. But before we get there, let's go over my 1992 Honda Civic SiRS for those that aren't familiar. So the background on this car, I'm gonna keep it quick and simple because we did a video about this about 3 or 4 years ago about this car, how I got it, how it was built, all that stuff. And there's also an article online. If you search Mickey Andrade Honda Civic, you'll find a Speed Hunters article that goes into the in-depth background of this car and all the parts that are on it. So if you're interested, check that out. We'll leave a link in the description below to that article. This car came over as a parts car from Japan, and I acquired this car in like late 2003 or early 2004. It sat for a number of years, probably 5 to 8 years. It sat without me touching it until I was ready to build it up. At that point in time, I basically stripped it down to bare metal actually, and took it off to Chaperone Auto Body here in San Diego, where they did a full respray on the car. This car was originally red. I love white cars, so I decided to change it up to white, and it is a Toyota Blizzard white paint on the exterior. It is immaculate and beautiful. The idea behind the build of this car was OEM plus. So I love the lines of the EG6, the hatchback in particular, and I wanted to add Mugen parts to this car because they were available at the dealership when this car first came out. The fitment of all the parts is OEM style. To add that stuff, to me, that's the OEM plus look. We did keep the B16A engine, which this car came stock with in Japan, and we spiced it up with a bunch of Mugen parts underneath the hood. We'll get to that in a second. But the idea was to keep the interior fairly simple. We did throw a 20th anniversary interior in here. This is the checkered interior. It's spotless and absolutely immaculate, and that's what I love about it. This car, SiRS model, actually came with a purple tweed interior, which I didn't care for. So this was a great upgrade for the car. So that's pretty special and cool in itself. And then we also have the SiRS specific steering wheel. And of course we have the Gathers audio system in here, which I've swapped out for all Alpine equipment. So it has 6.5s in the interior and Alpine deck. No subwoofer because I didn't want to modify the rear end of the car at all for a sub enclosure. So we got tunes, which is great. Has air conditioning, has the whole nine, has power steering, which is a rare option for this car. And for a 1992, it actually has the infrared controller on the keychain to control the door locks, which is an SiRS specific option for this car. So you'll see when we show you the door handle on the driver's side later, it has an infrared square on it. None of the other EGs had that. This car has it, and it actually functions, which is really cool. So that's kind of the quick and dirty backstory on this car. Let me move on to the engine bay. So in the engine bay, we basically kept it pretty simple because I got this car without an engine. I actually bought a front clip from an SiRS model and swapped everything into this chassis. Huge shout out to my boy Harvey. He used to own a shop called Whole Shot. He actually did a lot of the work while I was still working at Falcon Tire. I didn't have time to do the swap, so he actually threw this in for me, and he did a fantastic job keeping it all original. We did do a little minor tuck on some of the wiring and essentially just cleaned up everything. And as you can see, there's white paint throughout the whole bay. Everything was stripped out of here, stripped down to bare metal and resprayed, even the engine bay. And as you can see, we have a DC2 ITR intake from Mugen here. We made that fit in the EG. We also have the desirable Mugen valve cover, which is hasn't been available for a long time. This is not a replica, this is the real thing. We also have a Mugen 2nd series front strut tower bar, as well as the socks to absorb any leaks that we have from our master cylinders. Griffin radiator upgrade. I've upgraded all the hoses. Power steering is here. That's pretty much it. Everything's sort of just been restored and upgraded. All the hardware is all brand new OEM hardware. I did put Downstar bolts on the headlights, but yeah, essentially, as you can see, man, everything's been resprayed. I went through the painstaking trouble of finding all of the Japanese decals that go back on the car after you remove them to spray the car. All new windshield washer hoses, seals, you name it. Listen to this thing close. Sounds like a brand new car. So good. So moving on to the outside, as I mentioned, it's been resprayed completely in Toyota Blizzard white. Has a really cool metal flake to it when it's out in the sun. One thing that probably stands out to a lot of you guys is the headlight setup, and that's something that I actually made myself. I actually searched out a set of glass lens headlights, stripped them apart, and did an HID conversion for them, and have an HID ballast setup in there. So the lights are super bright. It has a really nice modern feel and look to it, but I wanted to upgrade the lighting on this car because 90s cars have terrible halogen lighting. Went so far as to search out the dual overhead cam VTEC decals. These were an SiRS only decal, and you'll see these a lot. A lot of people buy these and put them on their regular EG6s or SiRs. But these are actually meant for the SiRS only. They've now become obsolete and are very expensive to obtain. As far as wheels go, I went ahead and changed it up a little bit. These are a 15 by 6.5 plus 25 wheel that was made in 1984 originally for the Toyota Corolla AE86. They are center locking, true center locks. So I had to put an Integra Type R 4on114 hub setup on this car and brakes in order to fit these wheels. I did all that because I like these wheels that much. I actually have two sets of them. I have an original silver set with the original Hayashi decals, and I have this custom set that I had made. Cool story about these wheels actually spawned the HRE wheel vintage line full face wheel turbofan. So these were used and scanned and then redesigned in bigger formats for modern cars, which is pretty cool. If you don't know the history of HRE wheels, they actually started out as Hayashi Racing when they bought all of Hayashi Racing USA's inventory and switched the name over to HRE wheels, which now still exists as an exotic and wheel supplier for high-end cars. So pretty cool backstory. Along the side here we have the Mugen side skirt, which is again very Mugen side skirt, which is a very hard part to acquire. Sabon rear lip. I know a lot of you guys DM me and ask me what rear lip that is, and it's actually a Sabon carbon unit that we painted. It replicates the a Type R style rear lip. On the back, again, we kept the LED transformation going, so we've got LED taillights in a white and clear. Really modernizes the car, I think. It looks a little more like today's standard taillights. Here we have a Jay's Racing wing. This car actually has two wings. I have a C West rear wing and a Jay's Racing rear wing that I switch out depending on my mood. This car, being an SiRS model, was equipped with an LSD. I didn't mention that previously, but this car has a carbonetic clutch and carbonetic LSD. That's right, full carbon LSD, which is pretty cool. Underneath the rear end, we have a Mugen exhaust, and that is only a catback. I did not take the catalytic converters out. I wanted this car to look cool and not be obnoxiously loud. So we'll let you hear it in a bit, but it's just a shade louder than a stock Civic, which to me is awesome. Kind of fly under the radar. All Civics are very loud and raspy usually when they start getting modified. I didn't want that on this car, and the twin loop actually accomplishes that for us. Let's take a look at the inside. Basically, the back of this car is very unique. So when you pull the hatch release on these, it's really cool. It's actually like a clamshell style. So your glass goes up like that, boom, and then the bottom goes down like that. And inside, you basically have like a mini pickup truck. It's pretty cool. The rear seats fold down, and they have a hard shell back. So you can fold them down, and you have a flat, hard area to put things. It's really cool. And then the floor is actually raised so that you have this cubby here. And inside here, I keep a toolkit, the center lock wrench that came with the wheels, which is pretty cool. This is a piece from 1984, still functioning, and came with the set of wheels I bought, which is pretty sick. And then this bin, you actually spin these little clips, and this bin comes out, and underneath this bin is the spare tire, which is pretty cool. Where the US cars, it was literally just a spare tire, and then you didn't get this bin or anything. It's kind of bare bones. We kind of missed out on all the cool stuff, as usual here in the States. These cars didn't have an interior light, so I actually got this out of a US car and installed it because I like to have a cargo light back here. Because all these access panels come off, and as you can see, we have access to our coilover. These are Tane coilovers on here. Cool story about these coilovers. They're actually from Hataki Yama-san's Falcon tire front wheel drive drift machine that he used to drive back in the early 2000s. Little heritage about that. It's pretty cool. And they can be accessed here. And again, all the moldings have been replaced on this, so everything closes as though it was a brand new car. All right, well, I've fired up our B16A. Let's go for a quick drive. All right, well, we decided to take the EG6 out for a cruise. I don't think we've ever done any cruising videos in this car, so it's pretty neat to have it out. I really enjoy this car, but I've had it for a long time. I've got another car that I'm going to show you guys here shortly that I picked up that is sort of solidified me wanting to move on from the EG platform and sell it to someone who's going to give it a good home. Somebody that's going to drive it and enjoy it, because I'm not driving it. It just sits in the shop, and there's a lot of risk with it sitting around. A lot of damage can happen in the shop and stuff like that. So yeah, it's time. And I'm going to show you guys the other car that I picked up, but you're going to have to stick around to the end for that. Now we're going to head back to the shop because, as the title said, I'm actually going to sell 2 cars. This is just one of them. I do have a potential buyer for this car already that I'm speaking to. So it's possible that even by the time this video comes out, this car is already sold. That doesn't mean you shouldn't inquire. If you're interested in this car at all, I will tell you, I'm not selling it cheap. I've got a lot of money in this car, and it's going to sell for top dollar. It is immaculate, and everything works, and it's a beautiful car. So let's head back to the shop after our little cruise here and see about the other car that I'm selling. If you guys have seen our previous Cappuccino videos, you know that Ricky and I both fell in love with these cars the minute we got behind the wheel, because they are so fun to drive. It is literally a go-kart for the street, something we should have got here in America, but it's too small for Americans. We like everything big. If you've been watching our Cappuccino content from the past, you know that this car used to be like a dark green color, and it used to have really tiny little stock wheels on it and stuff. I went ahead and retrofitted this thing with a lot of really cool parts. So check our previous videos on the Cappuccino for what's really been done to this in depth. I'll go over it from a high level right now. Probably the most noticeable thing about this car is the aftermarket body parts that were applied to it to make it look a little more aggressive. The Cappuccino by nature is a pretty mundane car that appeals to a wide variety of people, where I went more for a track look. We used Toyoshima Craft parts pretty much across the board. We have their one-piece carbon fiber roof, which really helps knock down the noise inside the cockpit, because with the 3-piece roof and the rear piece of glass being able to go down, it creates a lot of shakes and rattles inside. Going to a one-piece helps that a lot. I was able to dampen out a lot of the sound. Not only that, it looks great. And to keep on the Toyoshima Craft theme, we went ahead and went with their carbon fiber side skirt extensions, rear bumper, rear diffuser, as well as the fenders, as you can see here. And they have more of a D1 style, or just a circuit style vent behind the front wheel, as opposed to the 2 little round cute holes that it had from the factory. We did go ahead and upgrade the side lights to a smoke clear lens instead of the orange lens that was on it from Japan. The OZ wheels are actually off of a Mitsubishi Lancer. They've been completely refinished, repowder coated in a factory silver with a heavy metal flake, and we added the Falcon Tire RT660 205 5015s on all 4 corners to make this thing handle like a go-kart. And to round things out, we went ahead and used an FRP front bumper that looks a lot like the Ari Amamiya style RX-7 FD front bumper, which I like because I love white cars, so I made the car white. This bumper looks really similar to TJ's bumper on his FD, so I thought it would be cool to have kind of a big and a little car that looked alike. So this is a better angle. You can kind of see the carbon fiber under diffuser underneath the bumper, as well as the reverse lights that go with the Garage Joe discontinued exhaust. I searched high and low for this exhaust. It is pretty rare in the States to have this exhaust. I know it's a little more common in Japan where these were native. It really amps up the sound of the 3-cylinder engine. With the Suzuki Sport exhaust, it was actually kind of quiet and more mundane. So I really like the added note that this exhaust adds. Plus it moved the exhaust tips up above the diffuser where the old exhaust would have hit the diffuser. So this was the perfect setup for the back of this car. To round out the exterior, we have our Ghost Wraps white wrap on here. This car is a Cypress green underneath, but man, I think the white makes it pop. Let me pop the hood for you guys, because we got some goodies under there as well. The hood pop's pretty cool in these cars. It's actually up inside the glove box. Whenever somebody takes this car from me, I always get a phone call. Hey, how do I pop the hood? It's hidden, you never find it. So under here, I actually reached out to my contact at Greddy USA, which is Kenji. He manages the Greddy USA business and was able to source Greddy parts from Japan for me, because Cappuccino's not being sold in the US means there's no parts here. So all of these parts, including the engine bay parts, had to be sourced in Japan and shipped over. So you got a little lead time and it's pretty expensive, but I think it was worth it. Look at the outcome. We've got our Greddy intercooler piping, which is tiny, just like everything else on this car. We've got our Greddy front mount intercooler that sticks down under here. I topped the engine bay off with this halfway strut tower bar, which in Japan, this isn't a rare item. In the States, to see this part is pretty unique. It's very cool. It ties the strut tower together. It also ties to the firewall at the battery mount back here. And then we also have an integrated brake master cylinder stopper. So this thing is accomplishing all kinds of stuff, and it looks cool. So that's what I love about it. The other thing I like is how it has the Japanese English on it. Your enjoy driving and motorsports. On top of that, we have our Greddy blow-off valve. You gotta have that sound when you drive a turbo car. So, and the Greddy intake manifold. Another awesome thing about this car is the AC blows really cold, so it's nice for road trips. So let's move to the inside. One question that everybody asks is, how tall can you be to fit in a Cappuccino? And adding this one-piece roof really helps a lot, because you remove the interior that's in here to put this in, and it actually creates just a smidge more headroom. But I'm 6 feet tall, well, like 5'11", 6 feet on a good day. But you can see I've got about an inch and a half of room up here, so you could probably be 6'2" and fit in this car with the stock seats. I know some taller people that have bought these and actually modified the chairs so they can fit, but comfortably, I think 6 feet's about the cutoff. I carried the Toyoshima Craft theme into the interior. A lot of these dashboards on these 90s cars are destroyed. This one's not in bad shape underneath, but it's not great either. So we went ahead and ordered this cover. This thing's sick. It fits right over top, and you put some two-sided tape and fasten it down. We did a whole video about installing this stuff in my garage. It was super easy and fun, and the quality of the Toyoshima Craft product is second to none in my opinion. So to carry the dry carbon theme into the interior, we did do the dash, and then I also did the door toppers here. As you can see, these come across and then across the dash and down the other door. And then to top that off, I pulled the door cards off and we suede wrapped those with a foam suede. Really nice. It really brings the interior level up. These were economy cars after all, so making it feel a little more rich is a nice addition. To clean up the interior a little more, we actually applied a Sparco steering wheel and a 330mm diameter, and we added this cool Cappuccino horn button. I love the horn in this thing. So it has a really nice feel. Feels like a track car, a sports car. We also upgraded the shift boot and e-brake boot to full leather units from the factory faux leather units that were in here. We actually upgraded the whole sound system in this car, which is pretty crummy from the factory. The kick panel speakers are all the way down by your feet and you can barely hear them, and there's no rear channel. So the audio is pretty terrible. So we worked with Pioneer. I got this cool Pioneer deck that actually allows you to stick your cell phone onto it like this. The cool thing about that is you use your cell phone as a screen. So because this is a single DIN only, and I didn't want to put a double DIN head unit in here and lose my climate control use or have to cut stuff up too much, I'm actually using Apple CarPlay through my phone into the head unit, which works through the sound system in here. I also added a powered subwoofer, which is down in the passenger side kick panel, replaced the front 6.5s with Pioneer 6.5s, and I added rear pod speakers from Pioneer in the back here. So we didn't lose any cargo space to speak of. Everything's hidden back away in the factory locations, and this thing actually jams out, which is great for road trips. Pop the top off, put the rear window down, and cruise. You can hear the music just fine. Last but not least, we have our Quest roll bar in here. This was a very unique bar. Not everybody loves it because it goes down on the passenger side. A lot of people like the symmetry of a bar that stays high all the way across. I liked it because it was unique. I didn't see very many of them for sale, and so I wanted this car to be unique, and that's the one I grabbed. So that doubles as a tower bar. It goes between the pickup points for the seatbelts. So that's structurizing the top part of the car and keeping this thing from being flimsy when the roof's down. So to wrap up all the mods on this car, there's one final thing in the trunk, and there is a strut tower bar from Halfway that matches the front bar and this roll cage bar in here in the trunk to keep the chassis nice and stiff. We also added a Halfway ladder bar underneath the bottom of the car to also tighten up the chassis. So as you guys can see, a lot of attention was spent on suspension and chassis for this thing, and I can't forget BC Racing. We have their coilover setup on here, which was a great addition over the Blitz coilovers that were on it from when I got the vehicle from Top Rank. So nothing wrong with the Blitz coilovers, but we work with BC and we sell BC. We ran them on this car and they've been fantastic. There ain't nothing to it. but to go for a drive so you guys can experience the Cappuccino. So let's get out of here. All right, so you guys want to probably hear this turbo setup. So here's the blow off. Oh my God, this car is so fun. Why am I getting rid of this thing? Woo! Well, if any of you guys are interested in owning this particular Cappuccino, I'm actually going to consign this one so I don't have to deal with the sales portion of it. Back to Top Rank, where I purchased the car. They know them as well as anybody. They've probably imported more Cappuccinos than any other importer in the US, and they're the ones that did all the service and maintenance on this before I bought it. So it's been a fantastic car while I've owned it, and it's going to be a fantastic car for the next owner, and I hope they enjoy the mods that I did to it. If you're interested, check out importavehicle.com. and the car will be listed there very soon if it isn't already, and take your chance at owning it. Now that we've gotten through the two cars I'm selling, it's time for me to show you what I picked up and why I've decided to actually part ways with these two lovely cars of mine, and you'll see why in just a second. Here it is, 1993 Nissan Skyline GT-R. This is probably the cheapest GT-R in all of the United States that I could find, and it happened to be in my backyard. I actually bought it from a local San Diegan who imported this car back in 2018 from Top Rank, and he was getting ready to get rid of it, and he's literally 20 minutes from me. So I went and visited him. It's the right car, so I swooped it up. Those of you guys that know me know that I love my JDM classic cars. I consider this to be one of the holy grail cars from the 90s era of Japanese cars, and I don't know that I ever thought that I would own one of these. But here we are today. I've got one, and I want to spend my time restoring this car, putting it back to the way that it was in the 90s. The previous owner has done some modifications, all very tasteful. So for instance, this car came with Olin's Road and Track coilovers, which are probably the finest coilover available for this car. It does have a Tomei shifter, which is a really desirable part that's no longer available, and the modifications under the hood have been kept to a minimum. Really just has some cold air filters on the end of the factory intake tubes. We'll show you guys that. So one of the reasons I was able to get a pretty decent deal on this car was because it had some gremlins, but I think I'm in the right field for that. So I was able to pick up this car from the previous owner with a coolant leak. As you can see, there's dried coolant all over the engine, and that's because all of the coolant lines on this car are dry rotted and they're leaking. Once this car gets to the temperature, it's spitting fluid everywhere. So right now this looks like an absolute disaster area under here, but the bones are good. We got an RB26 twin turbo, inline 6-cylinder engine. It runs, it boosts, so the turbos are in decent shape. It's got good compression. I gotta fix the coolant line, and then at some point this car's gonna go in and get a respray. So we'll go ahead and spray the bay, get everything set up, sorted out. You know I gotta do the Mickey spec on this one. This is a holy grail car for me, and I'm gonna go through and get it back to its former glory. As you can see, I haven't even washed it. The paint's in pretty bad shape. It's definitely gonna need a full coat of 326 Nissan white, and I'm looking forward to that. So that's my 1993 Nissan R32 GT-R. I am so excited to kick this build off. I hate to say it, guys, we are not going to be building this car on the Throttle YouTube channel, unfortunately. We've got too many projects going on in there. I've got the Freak to finish up. We've got the Eclipse to get ready for SEMA. We've got the 350Z electric Tesla powered sports car in there as well, amongst a couple other things we have going on that you guys don't even know about yet. So there's no time for this on the channel, sadly. If you want to follow along with my upgrades for this car, you're going to want to check out my Instagram. The link to my Instagram will be down below in the description, and it's right here on the screen. If you don't already follow me, head on over there, hit that follow button, and I'll be updating all the GT-R content on there. So check it out. If you don't already follow me, please do so. So we're gonna have a lot of great R32 content coming your way. I hope you guys aren't too sad about me selling two of my favorite cars. I am a little choked up about it, if I'm being honest. I don't sell cars very often. I like to build these and keep them, but I don't have the room. It's time to move on to a new one. And don't worry, I still got the bad apple, and it'll be back on the channel soon as well. So hang in there, guys. I thank you so much for watching today's video. If you're interested in either my EG or the Cappuccino, I've already told you how to find those. You can DM me for the EG or hit up Top Rank for the Cappuccino, and stay tuned for all the epic R32 content.